Friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. Thanks for being here. This is a missing person edition. And before I get into it, I gotta thank some people who sent some things in. And one thing that's really near and dear to my heart is fishing. Yeah, as you all know. Jim from the UK sent in some awesome fishing flies. Beauties that I will definitely use this summer. Jim, a very thoughtful thing to do. Thank you very much. And then got another package, and we get so many of these that I want to make sure I get it right. I believe it was from Denise from Colorado. Sent in some outstanding jasmine dragon pearls and strawberry pomegranate green tea. Yummy. Thank you so much. We will be drinking that tonight. And then a very nice friend sent in, because he knows, he made a bolo out of a bald eagle's head. Tell me that's not talent. That's mega talent. So nice. That was from Paul. Paul, thank you very much. Very nice from all you people. And I try to keep this organized so I can make sure I can get the thank yous out, but I don't deserve anything. And when you guys send in stuff like that, Angie and I just can't believe it. Honestly, we can't believe it. We're just trying to be good people in this world and do the right thing and do the best job we can under the conditions that exist. So, thank you. Now today, I've got two cases, and they couldn't be more different. They are extremely different. Now, I bet 200 of you sent in the first case. And I want to walk a tightrope on this, and I got to be careful. The missing person was in such close proximity to Caleb, who we spoke about a couple days ago, who also disappeared in Corpus Christi, that it's phenomenal. I don't think it could be any closer in reality. So, on its face, the 200 of you that sent this in to me thought, wow, it's got to be something related to this. I understand. So, 9 times out of 10, I wouldn't talk about the case. But I'm going to talk about it because you guys asked. And I'm going to set it up for you a little bit. In police departments, every police department of any size has a missing person department. Every police department of any size has a homicide department. Homicide is a very prestigious position to work. Missing person, really not. In reality, there is much overlap between the two departments or units. And without proper communication, one doesn't know that the other one may be working a case very similar. Oftentimes, missing person investigators are absolutely overwhelmed. And when a person goes missing, I don't really care who you are. In your mind, you kind of prioritize the case. As an example, you have a case like Caleb, who disappears, and his parents are there the next day. His roommates are all college students. His roommates are worried about him. There's really no rationale what happened, and everyone's concerned and everyone's looking for help and direction. You're the missing persons investigator. I'm going to be on that scene every day until those parents leave. I'm sorry, that's just the way it's going to be. And you say, why is that, Dave? Because I understand what those parents are feeling. I'm sorry. Police are public servants. If I can't offer some comfort, some solace, some help to those parents, then I'm a worthless policeman. On the opposite end of the scale, let's say you have somebody who's dabbling in drugs, has a history of drug abuse, is hanging around people of questionable integrity, and they disappear one day. And there isn't a real big push from anybody to go find them. Well, if nobody's really pushing to find them, why should I, the policeman, make a big push to find them? And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just talking about the realities of our world. Because back at the office, you've got 250 other cases just like it. Yeah. So when you're looking at it, you don't know, is it a suicide, a homicide, a voluntary disappearance? You don't know. But when you got Caleb's parents sitting over there on the curb begging for help, and nobody over here is really pushing really hard, that's just the way it's going to be. And let's talk about this first case. It involves a man named Bradley Brooks. Again, many of you sent this in. 36 years old. Bradley was a good-looking fellow. Is a good-looking fellow. Here's his Texas DMV photo. He's 36 years old. Went missing August 18th, 2019. In a few months, we'll be heading up to 5 years. He had a residence in Flower Bluff, which is essentially Corpus Christi. And he had a history of working on oil wells. You got to pay attention to this. His hobbies, one of the biggest one, was fishing. And that blew me away. Because Caleb's hobby, fishing. This is the wanted poster that was put out, missing person. So, Bradley was about 5'6", 170 pounds. He had a 2005 turquoise over blue Mazda. And just about this time he disappeared, the following week he was due a large check and he was getting a new car. So he had a lot going for him. He was excited. World was falling into place. I spent a lot of time looking on this. And I spent a lot of time watching people talk on Facebook and on YouTube about Bradley. One man was named Buck. Good friend. So, Bradley was a drug addict. He'd gone through rehab. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict. That's what that means. And he recently had his daughter, who appeared to be like a teenager, move in with him and a female friend in Corpus Christi. So on the 18th, Bradley brought his daughter home to where he was living with this woman and her son. And he got home and he went in the bathroom for 30 minutes. And the female roommate said that it appeared he was smoking in there, trying to conceal something else. That was what the feeling was. Well, everyone thought that was suspicious. Well, he exits the bathroom and said he was going to go fishing that night. And it was later. And he left to get some bait. At the same time, the female roommate left to take her son to tennis lessons. But about 9:30 that night, both of them got home. And the female roommate said to Bradley that they needed to take the kids out to dinner. It was getting late. And she said, yeah, I'm driving because you're too under the influence to drive. And Bradley got upset. And his female roommate took the kids to McDonald's. And as she was at McDonald's in Corpus Christi, she looked across the street and she saw Bradley in his car at another fast food restaurant. So this would have been a little bit after 10. Well, the female roommate drove the kids home, and they all went to sleep thinking he was going to probably be out till midnight, 1 or 2 in the morning fishing. Subsequent investigation showed that after Bradley went to that fast food restaurant, he went to another friend's of his, stayed there till about 10:30 and then left. And the feeling was that he was going to go fishing. Now, when he came back with the bait at the house and his roommate and the daughter and the son were there, he had a very small amount of shrimp. And everybody thought that the amount of shrimp he had wasn't a lot for if he wanted to fish for a few hours. It was almost as though he did it just to convince them that he was going fishing. That's kind of the way everyone was talking. I can't say that's true, I'm just saying. Well, August 19th, Bradley never came home. Now let's stop there for a second. When you live around addicts, the number one thing in their life is their drug. And they'll pursue that to any means. And even if that means compromising a relationship, they don't care. So when Bradley didn't come home, I doubt that this was a huge revelation to the people, because it's what addicts do. But the 19th, he didn't come home. On August 20th, a resident at the Marina Village Mobile Home Park off Stingray Court had seen Bradley's car backed in at the end of the dirt road near the ocean. And since it had been there a couple days and the hood was up on the car, he called for a tow because it was posted and he had it towed. Hold on. Now this is the Naval Air Station at Corpus Christi. This is where the car was parked, right at the end of this dirt road, right at the water. Now, 2 miles the way the crow flies, that's where Caleb was at his apartment when he disappeared. And there's the university that Caleb went to school at. 2 miles. Now, when I saw that, I said, you know what? That's a little too close for my liking. So back to the story. So the car is towed. Police had a missing person report on Bradley, but it was a couple days before they even realized they had the car. And it's complicated, but when cars are towed, there's a law that the tow driver has to report the car to the police within a certain period of time. And then the police, if they're backlogged, the tow doesn't get reported into the system sometimes for later. And then people don't check the system sometimes. It's a mess. I've seen this happen before. So they have the car. And from what I could tell from friends and family that were talking about it online, really wasn't a lot going on. Police really weren't doing a lot. Well, about 2 weeks into September, Texas EcuSearch came out with dogs and ground pounders and searched the area where the car was. And now they're about a month after the disappearance. So if there was a body there, a cadaver dog should have found it. But evidence would have been blown away, weather would have taken it. There was never any mention if the car had gone through forensics, fingerprinting, vacuuming, etc. Nothing like that. Well, sometime after that, a person in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, who had been in rehab with Bradley, saw a man at a gas station, and he said, "I swear that's Bradley." Well, he had to get gas and he had to go on, and he didn't have time to run and go say hi to him, so he took off, and then he reported the sighting to friends and family. Well, one of the family friends drove up there, looked at the footage. They had CCTV footage, and the subject that they identified was wearing a hat, and it was hard to tell exactly who it was. But when they made it public and it made the local news, a man came forward and said, "Hey, that was me in the hat." So everyone says that wasn't Bradley. Now, police officer perspective here. In the Caleb disappearance, you will find that everyone was helpful. Friends, family, neighbors, school, everybody's wanting to help. In this case, not so much. Friends of Bradley, some were cooperative, some were not. A lot of the searches they did, people said, "Hey, your friend's not here, stay away." Okay. Lonely roads out near the ocean, where you can see somebody driving up the road from a long ways away. Many narcotics transactions take part out there. Then if you see a police car coming up this long driveway, hey, just chuck the drugs in the grass and pretend like you're fishing. I don't know what happened out there. I'm just saying. We know he was under the influence at the time he went missing. And how do we know that? Because his female roommate wouldn't let him drive. Good enough for me. Now here's the problem. And I don't like to second guess police. This case shouldn't be a missing persons case. Case should be suspicious circumstances and be a homicide case. Because of the circumstances surrounding the disappearance. Drugs, drugs, drugs. Because of a history of drugs, because of under the influence at the time. I'm sorry, I would have brought all those friends in, every one of them. And I probably would have put half of them on a polygraph, just to eliminate who is telling the truth and who isn't. And then Buck made a statement. And he said, well, if Bradley had been a person of higher moral character, maybe the police would have paid more attention. He was 100% correct. And again, it's kind of what we all would have to do under that position of the detective. You have to prioritize things. But I'm sorry, on Bradley's case, I hate people. I hate people that kill others. I would have made this case my little priority, and I would have went out and found the person that killed Bradley. Remember, he just had his daughter move in with him. Even a drug addict comes back for their daughter, if they could. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but it's my uncanny hunch that he's not alive. And same thing Buck said when he was talking on film. So, no, I don't think it's a 411 case. I do think it's highly coincidental that a big-time fisherman, two of them, disappear within 2 miles of each other. 4.5 years apart. Very weird. Very weird. All right. And by the way, I feel very sorry for all of his relatives and his daughter. If I said anything that was inappropriate, I apologize. Everyone has a mom And for the people who have kids, then you have a dad. And I have no doubt that your dad loved you immensely. But addiction is a horrific thing. It's horrific. It takes over everything. The willpower you once had does not exist. You aren't the same person you were. So keep those memories of your dad alive. Don't think bad about him. Okay, next case is out of Alaska. Now, about once every 12 to 18 months, I get a nasty email saying, "What are you, racist or something? Why don't you ever have black people on your show? They go missing." I'm not a racist. There just aren't a lot of black people that have gone missing fitting the 411 profile. When I find them, I put them on. And as you people know, I have put on cases involving black people. And this is a black person. His name was Robert Coleman. It's the best picture I could find of Robert. Robert was a family man. He was married to Beatrice, and they had 3 daughters. He went missing September 25th, 1965. He was 51 years old, and his family lived in Fairbanks, Alaska. They lived there since 1946. He was a civilian employee at Ellison Air Force Base. The family explained to the police that he was a mega experienced hunter who went out every time possible. And in fact, up until September 25th, he had gone out several other times hunting. He was in very good shape, and they didn't know that he had any major medical issues. Well, on Saturday, he left home to hunt caribou. And the plan was, after hunting the caribou for a couple days, he was going to just drive straight into Ellison, take a shower, and go to work. Well, on that Monday morning, he didn't arrive at Ellison. And his peers called the house to see if he was sick. And they said, no, he was hunting caribou off the Steese Highway. And they said, well, he didn't come in. So the family calls the Alaska State Troopers and files a missing person report. They ask where on the Steese Highway he was hunting, and they said, we don't know, somewhere in there. Now, the Steese Highway goes through some of the most remote part of Alaska you can even think of. This is a very small city called Central. This is Goldstream, Farmers Loop, South Van Horn, Badger, and this is the highway. And his vehicle was eventually found in a small turnout way up there, way up north. Well, September 28th, the Alaska State Troopers found the vehicle parked in a small turnout. It was locked, just like you thought someone who's conscientious would do. Looked like it hadn't been in for a while. Well, so they had their search area. They notified the family, had a discussion. Well, does he hunt? Does he go out for a long time? Does he come back? What does he do? They had these conversations. How experienced was he? They said, you're not going to find a more experienced hunter. Okay. Well, they find the car and they start searching. They put ground pounders on the scene. They request some air support. And what happened is that in their search of the area, 2 days later, on October 1st, the troopers find a couple camping a couple miles away. And they asked the couple if they showed them a picture of Robert. They said, have you seen this man? Have you heard from him? Anything unusual? And they say, yeah, as a matter of fact, yeah. They go, what do you mean? And they said, well, on September 26th, late in the day, we heard someone calling for help way out in the distance, way up in the mountains somewhere. They said, well, can you point to it? And they point essentially just way up in the mountains. And the troopers asked him, well, what'd you do? Well, we didn't know anybody was missing, so we didn't say anything. What? Yeah, they didn't do anything. I can just imagine what was going through this trooper's mind right now. I'm sure he was just biting his tongue not to tear their head off. They said they didn't know anyone was missing, so they didn't do anything. Okay, so just in case I don't miss anything, if you're ever up in the mountains and you hear somebody calling for help, you call 911, okay? And you report it. It costs you nothing, and you might save a life. Well, now they had a new search location. So the following day, the U.S. Army and civilian volunteers and Alaska State Troopers and State Wildlife Troopers got into the area and just crisscrossed the region all the way up, miles and miles. They had a local tourist helicopter volunteer 2 days worth of time. At $1,500 an hour, that was expensive. That was a nice gesture by that helicopter company. On October 3rd, the Air Force donated a helicopter and 50 ground pounders. They never found any tracks. They never found any evidence of Robert in the area. A campsite, nothing. A lot of times, hunters find an area, they'll sit down, make themselves comfortable. And you'll know that they were in the area because there'll be a lot of tracks in the mud, on the ground. If you have a dog, the dog's going to hit on if you went to the bathroom, things like that. They didn't find anything like that. On October 4th, it starts snowing really late. And they searched the whole day, and at the end of that day, they finally gave up. They thought it was going to get worse and worse, and they didn't want to go further. The family made out a public notice saying, Beatrice said, thank you so much for looking for my husband. We're grateful, blah, blah, blah. Very nice. Fast forward to July 1st, 1966. The family wanted to wait till all the snow was off the mountain, no hunters around, and they requested, Beatrice asked the Army to commit more resources to look for her husband. And a captain named Robert Openlander got 50 soldiers from Fort Wainwright, and they got him to search from the 1st through the 4th. And he put them in a sweep search, shoulder to shoulder to shoulder to shoulder, and you just sweep across. You just walk it. You get to the end, come across, come back the other way in a new area. They did that for 5 days. Guess what they found? That's right, nothing. So on the face, it doesn't make any sense. Except that I had something strange happen to me on one of these searches. What was that, Dave? Many of you have heard of this special that I had on the History Channel called Vanished. A man disappeared at Mesa Verde National Park. We went there to film it. And we had an idea where the man was last seen, and searchers had gone in there and searched and didn't find anything, and they all pulled back. Well, one of the last days of the search, a reporter had come out and was going to interview the park superintendent on some other irrelevant issue. She was from a newspaper. And they said, hey, can you go take a hike for an hour or two and come back and we'll talk about it? I'm busy with this search. She goes off and she hikes. She doesn't even know anything about anything that's going on. She goes out to this area where this man was last seen, and she hears somebody calling for help. Yeah, just like Robert. She can't believe it. She runs miles all the way back to the park superintendent's office. She's out of breath, runs in the door and goes, "Hey, somebody needs help." Well, you have the chief park ranger and you have the park superintendent standing there, and she tells them what happened. And they both look at each other, and she said, one of them looked at me and said, "Somebody reported this to us a couple days ago in the exact same spot. And we sent 20 searchers out there, and they searched for 2 days and found nothing." They said, "Well, we're going to send more people out there. Let's go." So the chief ranger goes and gets more people and goes back out there and searches again and finds nothing again. Now, this was a key part in the story in Mesa Verde. And we had 2 directors on this entire 2-hour special. And I was one of the executive producers, and we were in the office of the owner, Prometheus, explaining this and why it needs to be in the film, blah, blah, blah. He gets mad at us. His name was Kevin. He gets mad at us, said, "No, it's not going in the film." And we said, "Why?" And they said, because it makes the Park Service look bad. They didn't find him. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And we explained again. In fact, the directors explained, "Hey, we interviewed this physicist that talked about portals and multi-dimensions, how somebody could slip into another dimension and could be yelling and could be heard at this other dimension. And you could go out and search, you wouldn't find anything." And he goes, "No, it won't be construed the right way. We're not doing that." That was a heated argument that went on for a good 20 minutes until finally he screamed and said, "That's it, get out. We're not having that in the film." Okay. And we left. But that doesn't stop me from telling you about it. So my point on Robert's search, whenever I hear about things like this where there's no evidence and there's nothing, was Robert in a portal? Was he in a multi-dimension? How come it's almost 60 years later, 59 years later, and they never found a gun or anything? Guns last forever. Yeah, right. So anyhow, thanks for being here, you guys. I'm very grateful that all of you have watched. Very grateful. And make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're getting notifications. And your comments are appreciated. And Missing 411 Washington is our newest book. You can get it at NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Go to the online store and all of our books are there. In May, I'm going to be in Ocean Shores, Washington, at a giant Indian casino there at the UFO Fest. You can find it online in Washington. It's going to be a biggie, folks. Hope to see you there. Remember to be kind. Do something friendly for someone out there. At the store, see an older person, help them. Somebody disabled, help them. It's a kindness revolution. Paulides out.